Hello and welcome to the Low-Code Campfire for October 27, 2023. This is episode number 121. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App, and joined capably today by Patrick Anderson, who's a Technical Success Manager here at Plant and App. This is an event we do every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, and it's an opportunity to come together and talk about the Plant and App product in general, any experiences you might be having in specific. We often get great ideas and solve problems right in the middle of the meeting. So do engage with us. This is a recorded webinar or meeting, and they're all published on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantandapp. So by all means, subscribe to that. We run the same agenda week by week, which is pretty informal. We stop for a minute and say hello and introduce ourselves, and then we go around the campfire. We always do first call to give you a chance to jump in and talk about what you want to talk about. But then we look at some of the other things like contributions to our campfire website, which we have one of those today, and some other topics. After an hour or so, we go into Afterglow, where we turn off the recording, raise a virtual adult beverage, and just enjoy each other's companies for a few more minutes. So do engage with us, jump in, show and tell, use the chat window, but do get involved. If you've got noise going on behind you, please mute. You can submit questions and topics in advance using this QR code or some of the links that we send, that we put in the emails that we send to you, so do that. With that, I will say good morning to all my U.S. friends.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Great, we'll jump right in. First call, what you got? Nobody has anything. Quick meeting, so we're done. I have
Everything's running smooth, I suppose, as you should.
Well, good. I have one thing that I thought it would be useful to demonstrate. I had a client ask me about how to set up form templates, and if you'd like me to take a couple of minutes, I could demonstrate that. But I really don't want to get in front of anything that might be useful to anyone else. All right, I'm going to do that then. So form templates, first of all, what do they look like? If you put an action form on a page and say that you want to manage the form, first of all, I wanted to warn you, when you put a form on a page the first time, you really shouldn't use this manage form button. I highly encourage you to use this form is not configured, proceed to manage form, among other reasons that it defaults with some settings that you might not like using the material theme. So use manage form and you'll get best results. You'll see these are the templates that I'm talking about. We provide two. You have a blank form and a contact form, and if you choose one, your form's going to get set up in that way. So to illustrate, we've set up this contact form, something that you could make it very easy to customize. Most of you probably start with blank form, but custom form, for example, prompts for first name, last name, email, subject, a loading bar, has some logic and some CSS and some validators, and you're all set up for Bootstrap 5 and a particular layout. So kind of convenient. Has anybody who's on the call ever set up a custom form template? Well, so using that one that I created, it automatically generates all those fields, and I'm going to actually delete that out and start from a blank one, because the idea is we want to create one that appears on that list. And so let's say that we want to create a company standard one. Maybe we put our logo on it. Maybe we set up some logic that we use all the time, or all the settings that we like. So just instead of having to do it over and over again, you create your company standard. So I'm going to drop another one on and use manage form and use the blank form. So we'll just build up what we consider our company standard. We'll just do a couple of things to illustrate. So let's say that our company standard is Bootstrap 5 for the template. Maybe we like our labels on the top. I do this all the time. Maybe we call this to name this form, reminding us that we've got to provide a name. Maybe we use a root CSS class that's all, we use the same thing all the time. We can turn off the Bootstrap option, which probably doesn't do anything anyway in Bootstrap 5, but you can make any kind of changes that you wanted in here. Maybe for a field, we'll add a static text field that is visible to administrators, telling you what this form is about. So we'll say has role, we'll show this to admins, and that. So this could be our template for a form. Every time we start, we want that same thing. Like I say, it could have anything, fields, logos, any kind of standard. We talked last time about maybe an edit form link, things like that. So in order to turn this into a form, I've got this handy dandy contribution in the Campfire. It's if we look in the contributions list, it's create a form template, tool, and instructions. And so we can go there. And these are the steps. So how to use the tool: you start by placing a form on a page, select the blank form template, adjust the settings to however you like it. And we just did that. We added fields. Once it's set up, we need to export the form as a template. So that's where we are in step 5. So here it is. We're going to export the form. So we say export content, and we got to put it somewhere. It doesn't matter where, but we have to store it. And I have one called folder called XML or AXML, and so we'll call this company standard. And give it a date so that we know which one we're grabbing. I've got a couple out there that I was working with yesterday. So you can either use the site assets to go find that thing in your find that folder, or I use a shortcut all the time. I just go back to import content and pick out that same thing. So company standard and today's date. And once you pick out the file, the module content has the export. So it just saves the step of having to go to site assets or transfer the file. You download it, and then you still have to edit it and put it on your clipboard. So we've got it on our clipboard. And so now we're going to go back to this tool. And so we place the use this form to convert it into a template. We're going to use this tool, and so we put the export there. We're going to call it our company standard, and something like that, and just click download template. This tool cleans up, so we've got this this file that got created here, company standard text. The tool just cleans up the export. So it just cleans up the export of that to make it be ready. Plus it adds a description tag, but mostly it's just cleaning up, changing the, excuse me. You look at what we started with, there was a lot of less than and greater than signs that were put into different format. It has some module stuff that we don't need, things like that. So the cleanup of it looks like this. And now you head out to the file system on your server. So we'll go there. Got that going. So the file system on your server, this is the root of my site, and I forgot to grab it, but this is where they belong. So if we go to that spot on our site, we see that there's the blank form config and the contact form config. Those are the two templates that were out there already. And so I'm going to grab this folder, this file that was downloaded, copy it from here, paste it onto our site. I'm going to clean up this file name a little bit. Do it with a space, doesn't matter, it would still work, but I like it looking better that way. And so now when we go to
Dale,
yeah.
I think you left the text extension on there.
Thanks for catching that. That's a good one. It needs to be a config file, and the uploader won't let me. Excuse me. We have to rename it. I downloaded it as text, but it has to end with config. Good catch. So if we go back to our site, and this is the one where we developed the template, but now if we add a new action form, I'm going to put it in a very obvious place so that we can see this is the new one we're adding. We say manage form. One of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to see your new company standard with the description that you provided here, or you're going to get an error message. I'll demonstrate that here in a minute. If the format of the item is not good XML, not what it expects, it'll blow up. So it'll give you a clue about what you need to fix. But you just click. You can click it just like the templates that we provide, and you've got a default form. So we've got our documentation. We can name it. We can look at the settings, and it's got our class, and so it gives you all the setups that you might want to do. And if we go back and take a look at it, we can see it right here, and it's called new form. Nobody's ever done that before. Then I think you might use it.
So Dale, yeah, I had done that quite a while ago, and I know it wasn't that easy. It looks like you've simplified the process very nicely.
Yeah, I suspect at one time it was even easier. I suspect the export of XML was probably copy and paste, but over time, the XML, XML that it needs, I think may have drifted a little bit, but yeah, hopefully that tool will make it easy to do. And just, just for clarity, I took a look at one of the templates that we've provided and used that as a guideline for how to develop the template. So this template told me where I needed to go, and I made a tool that did that. And you can take a look, since the tool's out on Campfire, you can take a look at what all it's doing if you want to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you want to talk a little bit about what you did? Just, I mean, I think that everybody on the call probably is curious about it.
Before I do that, I'm going to make this be invalid, just to see it blow up and what it might look like. And I think I could probably do that just by providing a bad tag here. So let's do that. So if I place another action, it's not going to, it'll blow up when you click manage form. So if the XML is bad, you've got to figure out the problem. And so you'll see like that this is saying it's a bad tag. The line number and position is really useful. It's telling you the first thing that it's upset with. And so you can just open it and go to line 2 and maybe figure it out.
And if I hadn't caught the text extension thing, it just simply wouldn't have shown the template. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, because it's just listening to all the.
It's interesting that error message popped up before you even chose that you wanted to use that template.
Right, because that's what's happening. It's at the point where you say manage using that option, its work is to go out and look at all the config files that are there. So it's building this. It's building this by reading the XML, and it needed to get description. Because
that description, is getting loaded there.
So it loads every file. It loads every description. It has to then therefore parse the XML, and so it'll blow up immediately. And so you should definitely test when you put something new out there. And also note some of the other things where we allow customization requires you to clear cache using servers clear cache. This one doesn't. This one, when you execute the manage form functionality, this manage form link, it knows to go read the file, so you can make changes. And to prove Patrick's point, if we were to rename this, if we had this problem where we had left it as a text file, and it would have, when we click manage form, it's just not there. And so you don't have to clear the cache or anything like that. You just have to get the file out into the right spot, and the tool tells you what the spot is.
In the error message that you got, did it reference that file so you knew which template it was that had the problem? Or it's just going to go?
That's a great question. We can do that again. Brush it, and I don't think it does.
Okay.
So you'll have to. This is why you'd want to test it right away.
Right. Yeah.
Because
go look for the recent date.
Yes. But yeah, any file. I mean, if you drop some other config file into that, we will release things into there too, and if we have a template or that needs to be installed. So yeah, probably most recent date is going to be your thing.
I'm gonna put out a question that I'm pretty sure I know the answer to, but just to for us to discuss it. And regarding what you said earlier about you encourage everyone to use the manage form link when they add a new form module to the page, as opposed to going directly into using the edit icon, right? Manage form. We don't have the ability to control what happens. That's in code, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So when you say manage form without using this one, if you use the pencil icon, say manage form, it's going to instantiate that with the defaults that were done in code. And you'll even see this unusual message. This form has been initialized with default settings. So it's however the developers thought it was a good idea to do that. And
so then the question that I have next is, do we have a ticket in our internal system to change the template that's being selected by default? I wonder. It seems like. I'll check.
I think that would be a good one for you to
take.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It has loose spacing. It has which is different. I'm not sure if we should look and see what the default is here. I'm going to leave this open for a second and so back without saving these changes. So we still have manage form. I'm going to pick blank form. And so maybe we can do a little comparison. What's the difference? Find a couple of things here. So if you use blank form, you get Bootstrap 5 with no text color versus material and inherit. You get label line right and field normal versus template default and loose. So there's a few things, and I would expect most of the things are going to be here on these settings because we don't provide. Let's see, could be tab events, could be a little different. Let's see. Nope, tab events are the same. So it's just a few things that are on that settings tab that are different. Okay, shall we dig into the tool a little bit? And actually, this is going to turn into another ad for artificial intelligence because decided to do all this in JavaScript, and that is, as you all know, that's not my love language. So we have a download template button, and it has just only 2 actions that are really related to creating the thing. And we run some JavaScript, and then we modify that just a little bit and then save file and set it up for download. So all the magic happens in these 2 actions. So we take the in DNN export of form, that is this label here, in DNN export of form. So in JavaScript, we can directly refer to the field without having, I mean, they're automatically passed into the code. We don't have to do anything with that. And so I just start doing, so one of the things that I noticed is that the only thing that we really care about is the content tag. And so I'm finding the beginning and the end of the content tag, and that becomes what I work with going forward, the content tag. We have to change the ampersands from code to actual character. Same with less than, greater than, and quote. We're making some changes. And then the first if you look at the export itself, the first, find the export here. Let's find the export.
Not on your clipboard anymore.
Well, my clipboard is not coming up.
Oh, there's.
Here it is. So,
that's your corrected.
Yes, it is.
Version.
So the actual export, all the stuff before here is not used in a template. And then this first C data isn't used. And so this is removing the first C data, and there was a right bracket around the C data, and so it's removing that. It's building the description and adding it after the first tag of action form. So this is how the description gets added in. Description is a variable, again, in my form called description, has an ID of description. So we add the description, we build a tag called DES, and then we add DES to it. And then there's an interesting thing that happens that if you do a manual layout, excuse me, if you don't do a manual layout, this starts out okay, but then gets some characters in it that are, it looks like it's not valid XML and confuses the XML thing. So my tool assumes that you're not doing a manual layout, and it removes the layout HTML to just avoid the problem. If you're using a manual layout, this tool is not going to work for you. You have to do it elsewise. And so it removes that and return this content then has been built up, and it returns it as template XML. So the other action just says we're adding an XML tag on the front of it, and then adding the template XML. So prefixing that, and then we use the save file action to send the template XML to a file called template name, the name that you gave it up above, .config.txt, and I'm overwriting that every time so that the name doesn't change. So you get the name that you gave it, .config.txt, and we grab the relative URL so that we can set it up for download. So relative URL, force download. So clicking the download button does all the work and then sends you the file.
So that template HTML tag is not required. You just remove the tag completely, and it's fine. That's what you're saying?
Sorry, say again.
I'm sorry, I backed up a couple steps. That template in the template HTML tag in the template itself. I'm sorry, layout, manual layout. That one. I'm sorry, I was using the wrong term. Manual, the layout HTML content. Yeah, that's that tag is not required, so you can just remove it.
Yeah, the absence of it it'll just cause it to default when you.
Okay.
You know, if you were to export it again, it'll have one. So the absence of it isn't a problem. But if you let it default, it defaults. It puts in some a malformed XML. Text. So Mark, you're asking what was the line that read the text inside the template?
You probably just need to scroll up a little bit. Right there. NDNN export of form.
So this variable this is just a variable name. It's an ID of a field name. So I just start out by saying
ID of a field name. Okay.
Yeah, and so it matches up to this.
But you pasted in.
Where you pasted. Okay. So yeah, I misunderstood. I thought I was going out and reading that exported, but you're not there yet. Okay.
Right. So
I get it.
You paste your export
in
into this. It's an input variable, so I call it in. And then
I'm surprised you didn't have to reference forms dot whatever before that part.
Right. It's provided in the this action is execute JavaScript server, and one of the things it does is bring it in for you automatically.
Oh, gotcha.
So just say you can pass in more if you want to send in a variable called you can set a string or a double or whatever and create the name and pass in a variable so you can build something on the fly that you pass in. But
I can't remember the scenario, but there's been instances where I have thought that a local variable should be available and it wasn't, and I had to add it, and I can't remember what that scenario was. But if you feel like you have a local variable and it's not working, you can always pass it in through, by adding the variable.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, this was a very very slow process for me to develop this. One of the things along the way that I did, notice the output of this is you say return and one variable name, and that gets stored here. And so as I did each step, and starting with just making sure that I had access to the that in template XML variable, that this in DNN export of form, I just started by returning that and then displaying it on the screen so that I could see it. And then one by one, as I did these, and I actually had a field named template XML on my form for the longest time, so that the Ajax at the bottom could just make it display on screen. And then at the very end, I sent it to a file. But again, the JavaScript to do all this is it is hitting above my weight belt, right?
I was going to say, this is almost as good as if you had asked Ben or Mark to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And
almost. AI is not there yet.
There's a case to be made too that maybe you would want to, if you there might be other ways to do this that are maybe even better than using JavaScript. For example, if it was done as a token, I could have added an additional reference to and actually processed it as XML with an XML parser instead of doing it as a string. And AI was very good to tell me, you really should do that because this code could be pretty brittle. If you found, if the strings that you're looking for weren't found or whatever, it might not work the way that you want it to. So this kind of makes some assumptions. But if you're curious about that part of it, my steps for AI was something like, I have this, I want that, make a JavaScript that would do that. And so you provide examples of the way that the export file was, and then you say, here's a list of things that I want to do, change the ampersands to the code values to ampersand and change this to that, and just gave it a list of things to do, and then it would write the code to do that. And then so I'm more in the role of testing what it came up with and figuring out why it didn't work rather than actually having to understand or know the syntax.
Just for a second, I want to go back to something that Mark said a couple minutes ago. And Mark, I heard you say when you were talking about you thought that maybe he was reading a file, and you said you're not there yet. And I think that where you're going with that is that potentially what you could do is that the export file that you when you export the module template, that you could potentially just read that file and have it process that file. That's where you were headed with that, correct?
Yep, that's where my mind was going.
Yep.
And we all received some help from Ben on that previously. So yeah.
So that would be a cool step. I mean, I think that copying the export and pasting it in is almost as good. But yeah, reading the file would be cool too.
Clean. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was just looking at the technique and thinking about if I could read the file in, I could use that technique for other data files that I'm getting from vendors and things like that that aren't properly formatted.
Who knows what this will do, because I was more explicit yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what it will write. I don't know whether this might not work because it's not really we're not in a browser context, and so the execute JavaScript server might not know how to create a
right. Yeah. Yeah. So, because it's processing on the server. Yeah, and it's trying to create it.
So yeah, I find it's interesting that you have to kind of know a little bit about what you want or what will or won't work. You can try it and find out that it won't work, and then ask it to can you do it without using a browser context, that kind of question. But you can get it to do a whole lot of nice stuff. Anyway, that's how I did that. I spent more time on it yesterday than I should have, but I had a client that was asking about why these why the templates defaulted oddly, and to material. And so it kind of sent me off into well, not only do I want to answer this question, but maybe it would be useful to be able to create form templates. So there you go.
That is useful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and
awesome.
Throw that out as a I haven't typically we publish techniques, but that tool is out there, and for anybody who's not part of Campfire, it still is available. You can browse to it and get there and make it work even without a login. So cool.
So after all that, and as is my way, I finally remembered something I wanted to ask you.
Good, let's do that.
Okay, so if you make a listing based on an entity, and you let's just reference the entity without any SQL in between. If the entity has a date, like maybe local date, time, I want to be able to refer to that date in a computed field and have it be formatted the way of my choice. So what happens in a computed field, it comes in as the full date syntax with all the minutes and seconds and everything. And I'd prefer to not have all that, just a clean date in a computed field. What's the trick? I'm sure there's a trick.
Well, are you just trying to display a date, or are you?
Well, I mix it in with other fields and some divs and formatting and stuff.
All right. Well,
you know, when you've got too many columns and then it just runs off the side of the page, so you start condensing them.
Yep.
I've dealt with this and I'm looking up what I did, but I think that you...
What I wound up doing, and I think there's probably something better, is I put a run SQL in the stack of the, something, I forget what. And it went out and it calculated the date, formatted it, and brought it back in. I created it. What I did is I created a token. Yeah. And I thought that was a lot of work just to format a date.
Yep.
You know, it's this is something that's occurred to me a few times, and we have our date time token, date time now. You can take that and you can using a pipe character. I think probably everybody on the call knows about this, but if you don't, Dale will gladly demo it for you. But using a pipe character, you can pass in a SQL date format to format the date now. I think it would be really cool if we had a token that would do that just with any date that you pass in, so that you don't actually have to go and create your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do show what you were talking about.
The date now, formatting a date now.
Yeah.
I'll wait for Dale to get where he's going right now, and then.
I was good.
Okay. Yep.
Multiple things here. We got.
And something else is it's not really, I don't think, is it documented here? It's one of those hidden features.
Easter egg.
Yeah, an Easter egg. There you go.
Right here.
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
So instead of now, you give it a date.
Yeah, so I was saying that what would be handy is if we could pass in a date to this token to format it. That's what I was suggesting. I was suggesting something that would be a nice add-on.
Right.
Can you add on to that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would
Because
want.
date time is a core token. That's not a plant and app token.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, it is.
So I don't think you can make those changes to the core tokens.
Yeah, no, it would have to be maybe maybe we add a
format date token.
Yeah,
yeah, you'd have to add your own kind of date time manipulation token that would do it, what you're saying.
So wonder about this one. So this token does, but I wonder if you
Are you saying you wonder if you can add, if you can add the format onto this? Because I think maybe I've tried that before and it didn't work.
So the format part of it is this. So you can format it. So now the question is, can you pass in if we
A token
don't pass
for
in
the
an
date.
offset, what happens? So
Well, that's not such a bad, I mean, it kind of does. I mean, passing in a time zone is not the end of the world.
Zero means UTC.
I was trying to get to no adjustment. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you can get there with what we've provided. We've got.
I pasted in the chat a razor token that I created that does it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's and I've done it with SQL, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. I
Yeah.
was hoping that we could find one that
That's core to the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's what
might
I'm
be able
starting
to
from.
do the current offset. If you do date time now pipe ZZ instead of 000.
So I'm sorry, offset of
A token, date time. Open bracket,
Right where he's got? Okay.
date time. Colon now, pipe, ZZ.
pipe.
What's the CZ stand for?
Offset.
So it's just getting the offset for right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll accept that, but
Let's start by just testing this by itself. So you get a -0.05. So you might need another 0.
oh, you know what? It looks like 300. That's minutes,
Mm-hmm.
not hours. So ZZ won't work. ZZ is bringing back the true offset.
Yeah.
The time zone offset by hours. The offset that it's looking for looks like it's looking for minutes.
What does?
Well, unless you want to, you could do more. You could do math and then multiply that by 60.
Now we're getting I think beyond
Making it easy.
Yeah, right.
Remember what the syntax for relative is. Let's.
I propose that we're working
Relative
too
only
hard.
has add to it, and it takes whatever the current time is, and then adds whatever you want to it, either a plus or a minus of days, weeks, months, or years. You can't even do hours or minutes. Days is the minimum.
And these things are the same things. These weeks, are assuming the current date as, so all these are fixed to the current date except for
Convert.
Convert.
Convert's the only one that you supply a date and then tell it what you want to convert it to.
I don't even have convert here. It's absent from the documentation. That's no good. Yeah, so I was just trying to figure out if there's some way to might be able to figure out how to use convert to get there, but outside the scope of what I can do today. Okay, so that's Mark's side question. Now back to the main question. So we've created a data source about books that we have a name and a created date. And so if we look at this, we've got name and created date. It's in that less than lovely format. So we'll set it up to edit here some more. So not to his question, first and simple, you can do format it as a date and change it to something that you like.
Sure. I wish I just could refer to this later. That would be nice.
Meaning? So that's the, if you just want the date, you can get it that way. But you were hoping as a computed field. And so my question, does that look like? We have created date and so we get that format, and that's what you'd need. You'd have to have a token to parse that out, or find a better way. We I wonder if our additional tokens are available. No, Patrick.
I think so. No, maybe not.
Now I'm off in a hunt for what the additional ones are, which are typically done in like a SQL query, right? Having to find, I'm just looking for a place to do an action. Could have done it, right? Book. Nope, that doesn't tell us. So colon ISO is what I was thinking. ISO date and ISO is UTC. So
I think that's what you tried.
Right, I tried ISO and it didn't work. So I would say.
Hold on, you've got lowercase. Does it matter? It had uppercase.
It shouldn't, but I'm willing to try it. It's a simple token.
Yeah.
All right, so I got to this point before, and I just thought that there should be an easier way, and I'm probably just missing it. Don't know about it.
And I'm saying no, I don't think so. I think you're
I've had something similar, and I didn't want to say no because I didn't know if someone knew of an optional way that I just didn't think of, but I never found a way to do it myself. Um, the only way that I know of to be able to format it is you would have to pull it out of SQL directly. Like you're talking about just using a table directly, like
Yeah.
an entity. If you build your own SQL, you can format the date time as a string prior to it getting to the listing. So at that point, your token, that field is already formatted in the way you want it as a string. It's not an actual date anymore.
Sure. I was just thinking I wanted to do it the low code way because I thought this is a simple listing. I just need the values out of the table.
Yeah,
And it seems like I get to that point where I have to convert my simple read table into a SQL pretty frequently.
I even tried playing around with, instead of a computed field, the other one, what is it, a formulated field, a formula field? Because that one you can apply formatting to. But if you put in that template area the date, it comes up as blank. It will never accept it. I do not know why. At least the version I'm using. I don't know if that's, I should rephrase from saying it doesn't work. I don't know if it works now, but in the version that I'm using, which is a couple versions behind, I could not get that date to show up there. It would always just be blank.
I don't use this field type very much, formula field. Does it do math? Is that what it's there for?
I think so. Yeah, it's supposed to do math, but when I put a date, the column appears, but the date is blank. Yeah, see? Because you do have the formatting option. So I figured, oh, well, if I put it in there with no math, it'll just take that value and then format it as I want it. But nope, didn't work.
Denied.
Yep. Good. All right, good question. What else? We have 2 minutes to do anything you want with. I'll tell a brief ghost story, which is that we had a support ticket that's happened today, and it was a rehash of one that happened a month ago, where when you're using your own SMTP server and you're trying to send the password reset email, or you create a new user and you want to send a new user, it's a little bit confusing where the emails come from. And Patrick helped me find this. There is a security basic login setting that says who the primary administrator is. And so if you select a user, whatever the email address is of that user is where emails are going to come from. So when you use your own SMTP server, typically you need to authorize either a domain, or you might authorize particular senders, things like that. And so the email address for this user has to be authorized with your SMTP account, or else the emails won't go out and will generate errors when you're trying to use those kind of features. So that took a little bit more time to do than I would have hoped.
You just saved yourself a support ticket, Dale.
Oh, you've been struggling with that one?
This week, I've been talking to my hosting provider about it, and they haven't been able to figure that one out.
Yep. So bring up your primary administrator, whoever that is, and then go to users and take a look at how the email that's associated with that, and that email has to be allowed.
And what they were seeing was, if you go to the server settings and the SMTP setup, and you go to test the email, you set this password and you say test email and it will send. But then in other ways, like sending a password reset, it won't send it.
And so, for example, this host email, when you do the test, this host email will be used as the sender.
Right.
And so it looks like it works. It says, oh, yeah, it's authorized. I've put this in here. But this is not the thing that gets used for password reset emails. It's the administrator that's designated.
And it was specifically password, new account emails, and password reset emails that that weren't going. So, okay.
So
that was in the security tab?
Yes, security, it's the first one, security, basic login, primary administrator.
Okay.
And there's another one, I'm going to try and continue to save myself a support ticket. If you look at if you are using our forgot password page, there's a form that we put on that page where you can reset a password. And unfortunately, the action that is with that reset password, we're using the send user reset password email action, but the sender email is not blank. It's something like reset password at your domain name. So my recommendation is to blank this out in this. If you're using our form, to blank out this sender email, because then it will use that same one that we were just talking about. Otherwise, you also have to authorize that email address.
And the related error I was seeing from the user screen if you sent the password reset email, I was getting an error that it couldn't find the template.
Well, I
don't know if that's the
not
same
finding
issue.
The template, it might be something else. Not finding the template might be a DNN. I mean, there is a template somewhere in DNN where this is defined. So that might yet be a support ticket, whereas at users. But if you try to send it and it gives a SMTP 5.7.1 error or whatever it is, that's more along the lines of authorization. If it's a template error, you need to find and set up the template. Cool. All right. We've managed to make good use of a Friday morning hour. So thanks all for attending. We'll do it again next week at the same time and station. Hang around for a few minutes if you want for Afterglow, and thanks for coming by.